Shalom, everybody. It's Kalila Kelly, your Irish Jew. And tonight I want to look at the strained relations between the Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, Bibi. Because apparently, after Albanese decided to acknowledge the state of Palestine, apparently he's going to do that next month in September. Just because he felt like rewarding Hamas for doing their thing, starting a war 2 years ago, October 7, 2023, y'all. He feels like, you know what, they need a bit of a reward. So Australia's going to go and recognise those terrorist bastards. Why not? Why not? I mean, really, they've done quite a good job at stirring things up. They're quite good at killing, raping, hacking people's heads off with garden hose. I mean, they're good at that. So you've got to give it to them. I think that deserves a state. What do you guys think? Anyway, Netanyahu got pissed off and basically said that Albanese, Mr. Sleazy, is a weak apologist for Hamas. And he didn't hold back. He said that history will remember Albanese for what he is, a weak politician who betrayed Israel and abandoned Australia's Jews. Let's pause right there. Okay, I'm on Bibi's side, no surprise. History will remember Albanese for being weak. This is the most appalling, disgusting, and pathetic thing that the Australian political establishment could do. To recognise a Palestinian state after Hamas literally carried out a terror attack and is literally using human shields to hide under, stealing billions of dollars, causing a war, murdering over 1,000 Jews and Israelis, and then kidnapping some. They still haven't returned them all. Why isn't Albanese putting pressure on those Hamas bastards, Islamist psychopaths who believe in a caliphate, who want to ethnically cleanse the world of Jews? Why on earth would you reward those people with a state? And, you know, Albanese didn't want to do this 2 or 3 years ago. He didn't do it before Hamas attacked. He didn't seem to give a shit about Gaza then. But now all of a sudden, he feels like recognising Palestine. It's something he has to do. Bearing in mind Hamas is still in power, still hobnobbing around, they still exist. Bearing in mind that they have done nothing to earn a state, to deserve a state, to win a state. They've been offered it multiple times in the past, and every single time they've said no. And yet here we go. Now is when the Australian Prime Minister steps in to go, yeah, we will support a Palestinian state. And Netanyahu is a student of history. He's done a lot of reading. He knows his history really, really well. And so when he says that Albanese will be remembered historically as a weak prime minister, I tend to agree, at least as far as Jews are concerned. In terms of terrorists and catering and to an Islamist base that's growing in Australia, he's doing a fantastic job. Anyway, Netanyahu says, your call for a Palestinian state pours fuel on this anti-Semitic fire. It is not diplomacy, it is appeasement. He's absolutely right. It rewards Hamas terror. Yeah, pretty much. Hardens Hamas's refusal to free the hostages. Yep. Who are still there, by the way, and I don't hear Westerners and Western governments putting pressure on Hamas to release them. It emboldens those who menace Australian Jews. Yeah, pretty much. And encourages the Jew hatred now stalking your streets. Pretty much bang on. I've said many times anecdotally, I've been observing anti-Semitism increasing. I see it in schools. I've seen it in the street. I've seen it with my friends. Yeah, it's like a thing. It's happening. It doesn't get much more personal or damning than that, according to MSN, and there was a collective holding of breath as the nation waited to see how the Australian leader would respond as Australian-Israeli relations hit a new low. When he broke his silence about noon, Albanese was measured in tone. You see, because there's nothing better when you're catering to terrorists than to assume a moderate and almost sad but calm tone of voice. Speaking from South Australia, he said he treated foreign leaders with respect, especially Hamas, and didn't take the description of him as weak personally. I treat leaders of other countries with respect. Do you, though? I engage with them in a diplomatic way. declining to descend into an ugly verbal exchange with his Israeli counterpart. What a load of crap. You want to pat yourself on the back for having a nice tone of voice, for having nice language, whilst supporting terrorists. This reminds me of a story, if you will. I remember back in the day, there were two comedians in the United States. There was Bill Cosby, he of the mass rape fame, and there was Richard Pryor, he of the brilliant but slightly unhinged fame. Anyway, the analogy goes like this. Bill Cosby, who was beloved of all the kids in the 80s and 90s because he was like this father figure of the benevolent family. He was a benevolent black man. Everyone loved him. It was a great affair, the Bill Cosby Show, and butter wouldn't melt in his mouth. He was a polite gentleman. And he once scolded another black comedian, Richard Pryor. He scolded Richard Pryor for swearing. It was unbecoming. It was rude and undignified. And obviously, years later, the irony is that Richard Pryor was just a good guy who had some mental health issues, was traumatized by a few things in his life, and was a brilliant comedian who happened to use the F-bomb. Yeah, he wasn't perfect, but he was raw and he was authentic. Crosby, meanwhile, he with the nice jacket and the nice jumpers and the nice corduroy pants, who never swore, because he showed respect to his enemies, yeah? Bill Cosby turns out to be the monster sociopathic mass rapist. And the analogy is that you have Albanese here literally emboldening terrorist psychopaths who rape women, put babies in ovens, and hack people's heads off with gardening hose. And you have him validating that leadership because, make no mistake, that is the leadership of the Palestinians right now. And you get him to validate those bastards and then to make out that it's Netanyahu who's just being really impolite and rude, and that's just not kosher. Netanyahu is trying to save Western civilization. Israel is at the pointy end of a really ugly world order that's taking place. And it's a world order where all of your manners and all of that politeness and liberalism and I'm comfortable and I live in a first world nation called Australia, all that crap is under threat by the advance of this ideology, which holds no prisoners, takes no prisoners, in fact hides under prisoners in tunnels. The latest flare-up in tensions came when Home Affairs Minister in Australia, Tony Burke, who is a Burke, his department cancelled a visa for a far-right Israeli politician. Well, we can't have far-right. That's basically the catch-call for anyone you want to censor these days. You just say they're far-right. So in the UK, the mums marching against illegal immigrants who rape their daughters, they're far-right. Simcha Rothman, who calls a spade and says that terrorists are terrible and you shouldn't put up with that shit, he's just far-right, possibly even a Nazi. Yeah. Strength is not measured by how many people you can blow up or how many children you can leave hungry, Burke told ABC Radio. Oh. Yeah. How do you even respond to the stupidity of Tony fucking Burke? Excuse my French. Oops. Oh no! Me and Richard Pryor were going to be put in jail for swearing. While our betters, our superiors, sit back, smoke their cigars and watch the terrorists burn everything. Some Jews complained. Zionist Federation of Australia said Netanyahu's comments were entirely unhelpful and productive. Alex Rivchin of the Executive Council of Australian Jewry said the Jewish community had never felt abandoned by this government. I haven't felt supported by them. They didn't crack down on the bastards protesting outside of the Opera House. They didn't stop ISIS and Hezbollah and Hamas flags being flown and cheered and celebrated on the Sydney Harbour Bridge. Get the hell out of here. So clearly there is a view that Netanyahu is out of line. The reaction by the Israeli leader was disproportionate. I don't think so at all. I completely disagree with that. Israel has lost over 1,000 of its young people, its civilians, and foreign international people too, right? Jewish, Muslim, Christian, atheist, whatnot. It's lost them to a terrorist attack. It's defending itself and fighting back. It's operating under the most bizarre and stringent and absurd conditions that certainly Australia has never had to fight under, where it's had to go into civilian areas, try not to hurt anyone that's being used as human shields, while the terrorists, your enemy, literally hides underground. It's pathetic. And Netanyahu, love him or loathe him, is a student of history. He knows his stuff. He has read so much on history. He knows and he understands the details of history. And that is why he's calling out Albanese, because when you have that perspective, and when you have the perspective of fighting for your survival, and in fact fighting for really Western civilization at this point, why waste time? Why mince words? He's calling Albanese out, and he should, because the Labor government is handling the Islamists with baby kid gloves. You can't claim that you're against anti-Semitism and for the Jewish community in Australia, and at the same time kowtow to the number one enemy of Jews right now, which is Hamas and Iran. There are others, but you can't do both. They negate each other, if that makes sense, yeah? It's hypocritical. It doesn't add up. It's not consistent. You can't say, oh, we love the Jews and we're supporting them and they're safe in Australia and I'm going to go to the Adra synagogue and look serious and concerned when the Jews show me the synagogue that was burned up. But at the same time, I'm then going to go and celebrate Palestine, even though your homeland is fighting for its life against these bastards and Iran and so on and so on and so on. I think it's great that Netanyahu launched that commentary, because I think it's accurate. I think it's very entitled and hypocritical of Albanese to act like he's being the better man, and he's just, he's about respect. Bullshit. Respectfully dead. That's how you seem to be fine with the direction that this anti-Semitic crap is going in. And Burke is just a Burke. So, yeah, I think Albanese's and the Labor Party on this issue are beyond redemption, really. So that's all. Have a good night. Bye.